Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you guys a little update on this. Not a final review, nothing like that yet. By the time you guys are seeing this, I have already had this and been using this for about 2 weeks. I tend to spend a lot more time with units that are either sent in by companies or ones that I've purchased with my own hard-earned money, like this, for example. And what is this, you may ask? This looks very familiar to a lot of enthusiasts for sure, but this is actually something that is very difficult to get a hold of right now because I believe they're all sold out at this point. This is none other than the BBNM by DWYER. This is, of course, a licensed design being produced by North Mountain Blades. Now, I did reach out to them and they have agreed to give me a 10% discount code so that I can share with you, my lovely audience, so that you are able to utilize something to get money off. And how much would you be getting off of something like this? I used another channel's discount. It was a 10% thing and I ended up getting like $33 off. 33 bucks, that's a whole nother freaking budget knife. But still, after everything's said and done, you're still gonna pay about $280 around for this particular one. Now this one actually has a antique bronze brushed top scale here. And the blade itself is actually, it has about 3 different finishes applied to it. So there is a hamon, it is sand my construction. You can see that there are 2 different, this is a metal sandwich essentially. A polished, a mirror polished edge, and it is essentially really premium D2 blade material. Now, yeah, it's called SLD-MAGIC. I personally don't know much about it, and I believe this is the only unit I've ever experienced with this blade material on it, but I'm excited to see how it actually feels when I go to sharpen it. I've been sharpening on the same system for almost 7 years now. Been a part of the hobby for 8, sharpening for 7. Numbers make sense, right? So I know at this point what D2 feels like. Now, is this gonna feel better or softer, mushy? I don't know. They're saying that they have heat treated this unit, at least on the authenticity and QC card. It was 60 HRC, which is good. 60 HRC for what is something that is a cousin to D2. Sure, that sounds great, but I don't exactly know what the cladded blade material is. Whatever it is, it's not that great because I've only had this for a little bit and have only broken down cardboard boxes, and there are scuffs and scrapes all over this blade. It's a little bit difficult to see. You can see some of the harsher marks as I kind of turn it in the light. Yeah, no yard projects, no inside the house or culinary tasks or anything like that. No zip ties. It legitimately just cardboard. That's it. Not dusty, grimy cardboard. I'm talking like fresh Amazon boxes. And it's left a lot of scratches all over this finish. It is a very fine bead blast material, so it's kind of the nature of the beast. But as of right now, I have taken this thing apart twice. I've done my due diligence to make sure it's well tuned and reassembled and all that. It is running on washers. That is the only way to get this knife. If you're not a fan of washers, you may not like this because if you're an action nut, this is something that's going to take a while to break in, definitely. So yeah, I mean, if you want bearing action, it's not going to be anywhere like that. But if you're like me and you enjoy washers, this is a really thick, robust, dense blade, and with a little bit of time and effort into polishing the washers, you can get action that is pretty good for a overseas production washer only knife. So that's the current update, at least visually speaking. The edge from the factory, I kid you not, it was one of the best edges I've experienced, but we know we can always do better. So let's go ahead, go down to my sharpening system, and I'll work on this thing real quick. It'll be like a little time lapse. You can skip over it if you don't care to see that kind of stuff. But and we'll see how this, if I have any kind of notes or anything to speak on how this thing feels. There are some blade materials, like I believe Vanix, for example, it's one that comes burnt often from the factory, where if it's being sharpened on a belt, it can get hot and like mess with the temper of the very apex of the edge and whatever kind of bullshit. I don't completely believe in that, because it's like, if a little bit of heat is enough to destroy the temper or to alter the temper of a blade, is a blade material really that great? Because a lot of people don't just use sharpening systems like mine, these manual fixed sharpening systems. There are a lot of people that use belt and motor operated sharpening systems. So is this something that could possibly go to shit if you're using that kind of system? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. I'm very curious. You should be curious too, so let's go ahead and check it out. Alrighty, excuse the dusty, dirty surface, but let's check out how this thing came out. So I got, some comments about it. Did it sharpen up well? Yeah, it sharpened up really good. Does it feel like D2? Yeah, kind of does feel just like regular D2. It doesn't feel mushy. It doesn't feel any harder than regular D2. And one of the most interesting things about this, why this thing makes me feel like it is just like a cousin, maybe even a sibling to D2, is that this is very difficult to produce a burr. I was going over it and over and over again, trying to get a nice prominent burr so that I could start hitting it from the opposite side and work it off and then snap off the burr properly before I started doing the back and forth passes. Yeah, just like regular D2, it's kind of a pain to get a burr. You feel it, but it's very, very thin, very light burr. You have to with a more sensitive part of your skin, I kind of have to because the tips of my fingers are a little bit more callous, but if I kind of go like further back here, I can feel it snag a little bit, and that's how I tell that there is a micro burr forming on blade materials that act like this. So here's a close-up again. All that stuff on the blade, all of this, it's just from cardboard, nothing else. So the cladding material is kind of on the softer side, but it is, again, the finish applied. If this was a crystallized stone wash, would definitely hide it a lot better. And I think the transition from the really fine bead blast to the polish, because it's both very abrupt finishes, you can definitely tell where they stopped. From one side to the other, the polish is actually a little inconsistent, at least as I hold on, I'm stumbling over my own words. My brain is moving faster than my mouth right now. So on this side, I can tell that the polish goes up further up than on this side. See how it kind of dulls out right at the hamon? But over here, it actually goes into the hamon and just a little bit past. You can see as I use the glare of a light right there. So it goes a little bit past. It's just something I noticed. This is obviously a human element. So that polish is being done by hand on a polishing belt wheel of sorts, most likely. So it's a human element. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, just want to show the the edge close up. You guys saw I only went up to 400 grit. Why did I stop at 400 grit when I can go a whole lot higher? Well, it started feeling like a blade material that would slick out really, really easily if I, you can see me over here, if I go past like up to 800 or even 1,000 grit. Realistically, like almost all my knives and all different types of blade materials, I like to stay around the 400 to 600 grit range, just because that's where I get the most amount of aggressive and satisfying bite out of, you know, my edges. I did lay back the edge, so this is a reprofiling job. Down to 18 degrees, the factory edge was somewhere around fuck, man, it was around 25 degrees or more. What this thing was at from factory, maybe 27, maybe even 30 degrees for all I know. You can see the stock thickness. This thing is kind of chunky, you know. It is supposed to be a harder use you know, design here, but they've applied finishes, at least to the blade, that are more of the more elegant, more lighter use. I would, you know, dare I say more delicate, because it's true, polishes are delicate. They are. It's just kind of common sense, right? So I don't really think I've ever had anything like blade wise that has like an actual like mirror polish, but this is, I mean, I'm gonna tear this thing up. I mean, just from basic use, and I'm not even a hard use kind of guy. It's cardboard and paper is the kind of stuff I go through. Plastic, maybe a couple bags of mulch or soil out in the yard, maybe some a couple little, you know, items in the kitchen, but I'm not gonna be doing a whole lot with something with this amount of stock thickness. Now the blade shape, of course, that's a whole other story. It lends itself very well to utility tasks. You know, that trailing clip drop point kind of thing. It's just, it's wonderful to get down to that tip, and this is definitely going to perform. So let's go ahead, back out. Let me just see how this thing actually feels. I have yet to actually cut with it. Alrighty, let's go ahead, check this out. Got a little piece of paper here. It's like a newspaper kind of stuff. Not newspaper, but like magazine paper, so a little bit more durable. Ooh, that's nice. Very nice. Okay, so I'm feeling a good bit of microchipping. Very, very fine edge that it produces at 400 grit. So that's really cool. Well, all that means is that this is a blade material that should be very easy to sharpen. So for a beginner or a harder use person, it's probably going to maintain more of the toughness, less than edge retention, but it's going to hold up to harder use. So it kind of makes sense for the overall build, right? Now laying back the edge, I'm of course altering those properties a little bit, as edge geometry and geometry overall matters. It definitely plays a big part in all of it. But looking at it in the light, I can't see anything. It looks really consistent. The scratch pattern is beautifully consistent all the way up to the tip. But like, for example, and I might be reaching here a little bit, this looks like a 800 edge on a higher, I guess, edge retentive steel. Like what? I don't freaking know. You guys know what I mean. But a blade material that's known for edge retention versus toughness. This looks like a shinier, you know, finish. That's all I'm trying to get across. This looks like I refined it to about 800, but I didn't. It's actually 400. So what that tells me is that if I were to have kept going, this is a very easy blade material to polish, meaning that it was very easy for them to make a nice shiny mirror polish, you know, edge with hamon and everything. So yeah, very, very fine cutting. It's not loud and abrasive sounding as it goes through this material. I wonder what a 200 grit edge would feel on this. It would probably feel like 14C28N, for example, at 600 grit, where it sounds aggressive and has a lot of bite. Yeah, I mean, this thing has bite for days, but it just makes me think that, I don't know, is this SLD Magic? Have I been calling it SLD? No, or DLC? It's SLD Magic. Is this SLD Magic blade material really that special? Probably not. I think it's more for looks and a little bit of gimmick. I don't really think, as of right now, that it has any properties that are groundbreaking. And this is no good geometry to really test the limits. Again, really thick behind the edge. I want to see this stuff. I want to try more of this. I like it enough to want more of it. But am I willing to spend, you know, near $300 or around $300 to get something else? Well, you know, there probably is budget knife designs with SLD Magic blades. I know Maxace does a lot of that. I haven't had anything from Maxace before. They do stuff that's more budget oriented, but it comes and goes, and a lot of the stuff that they have, they never really keep in stock. But at least from North Mountain Blades, this being my first experience with it, I'm not super impressed with the edge or the blade material itself. I guess like a lot of what you pay for is the design. The fit and finish is incredible. I think it's super sick. I love this thing. And despite me liking smaller, more compact, really thin bladed knives, because knives are meant to cut things, you know, but this is a little bit different. This is big and bold and brash, and like, you know, not really asking for any forgiveness when it comes to its size, and it, you know, it carries its weight really well, honestly, even with the full brass scale. I got some triple walled fine cardboard, so this isn't like really thick stuff, but it is, you know, triple walled. It's not that great. Who knows, maybe this is a blade material that does get burnt and you need to sharpen it a couple times before you get to good fresh material. You know, that could be a thing, definitely. But this edge is just, again, I'm thinking, what if I do a 200 grit edge and I get that aggressiveness that I'm looking for? Because this is feeling like a higher finished edge grit wise, but I know it's not because I went up to 400. 400 is supposed to be a really aggressive, super toothy edge, where the whole edge itself almost feels like it's completely microchipped, but it's not. It's just a really toothy edge. This is a very fine grain structured blade material. That's what it feels like. I'm obviously not a metallurgist. I'm just a dude that sharpened a freaking knife. That's all I am. But what I'm feeling from this one sharpening, from the use that I have, gone through with this thing, I'm thinking this probably won't be good with a higher finished edge. And maybe this is something that you want for your collection and you want to put a mirror polished edge on it. Well, good thing, it should be pretty easy to put a mirror polished edge if you want it, because the blade material is more on the tougher side versus edge retention side, so it is in a way softer. So that's just my thoughts on this currently right now. It doesn't change how I feel about this knife. I think it's amazing. It's really sweet. I'm a happy customer. I'm happy with, what I paid for. Is it something I should have bought at this point in time? No, I probably shouldn't have bought this, but you know what? I am happy that I did, because I would have been missing out on something pretty darn cool. And I'm grateful to have the experience of sharpening some SLD Magic that actually has what I would think is a good HRC. 60 HRC, I think that's more than reasonable for something that is very similar to D2. I've handled a bajillion freaking knives that are in D2 blade material, some USA production stuff, as well as a lot of like overseas things. I know what it feels like. I know how it should sharpen, and it's not hard to sharpen. It's just difficult to feel that burr because for whatever reason, it just doesn't develop a burr that easily. It's kind of on the softer side. It develops a mushy kind of burr. It's not super crisp. Like S90V is a great example for a blade material that develops a very prominent, very crispy, tall burr. So it's easy to form, it's easy to snap it off, and it's easy to, to work a blade or the edge of a blade. But this is very different than that. It is makes a mushy burr, and it's difficult to tell when you've actually made that apex and working it off and all that. But that's it. So in another week or so, I'll come back with final thoughts. I do have negatives about this, I do, and they are just me reaching. Honestly, there's nothing that's catastrophic about it, but stay tuned if you care for my opinion at all. There are a lot of positives. The positives absolutely outweigh the negatives, but I have found some negatives about this that I think at this price point could very well easily have been avoided and improved upon. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed already, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing because I play more videos and content coming your guys' way. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.